But sometimes life can be so overwhelming for me, and I have so many different things to manage, that bare minimum is perfection that day. And that's really, really applicable to healing from narcissistic abuse. That even if your bare minimum that day is all that you can do to take care of yourself, just getting up out of bed, getting in the shower, maybe shaving your legs if that's your thing, or doing the laundry that's been sitting on the couch for the past 5 days, if that's all that you were able to bring to the table for yourself that day, it's still a win. So I've been really blessed to be able to do social media as my main job now. And it's still very weird for me to say that that's what I do, because it's just, this all happened so by accident, but it was like the most beautiful accident that's ever happened. But I was thinking the other day about all the different life lessons that doing this job has taught me, and specifically like how these lessons can actually apply into healing when it comes to narcissistic abusive relationships or relationships with toxic people. And I wanted to share these with you because I've shared with you guys before that when I was on my healing journey, you know, I had some pretty great social supports and family support. I was very lucky in that aspect that I wasn't completely isolated. But as far as like the day-to-day things and the how-tos and the what-to-dos and the really practical steps of moving forward, a lot of that I had to figure out on my own. In fact, most of it I had to figure out on my own. Because even though I was going to therapy, therapy was really focused on what got me to this point and why I accepted these kind of behaviors from an individual and thought that they were okay. But as far as the day-to-day moving forward, I literally figured that out on my own through trial and error, out of just pure desperation of wanting to feel normal again. So I'm wanting to share these lessons that I've learned as an encourager to you. Just don't give up. Keep pursuing your healing with an unapologetic ferociousness. The first lesson that I've learned being a content creator is being consistent. So I don't just do this. So if you guys don't know, I am a doctoral student in occupational therapy. I have 3 kids, I'm engaged, and I do this. So my life is very, very busy. And sometimes just showing up on the platform, just posting a story, just posting one video, sometimes just doing the bare minimum is all that I can do on my platforms that day. But it's important for me to be consistent in order for my platform to reach people and for me to accomplish my goals. I have to show up every single day. Is it preferred that I do more than just the bare minimum? Yes, obviously it is. But sometimes life can be so overwhelming for me, and I have so many different things to manage, that bare minimum is perfection that day. And that's really, really applicable to healing from narcissistic abuse. That even if your bare minimum that day is all that you can do to take care of yourself, just getting up out of bed, getting in the shower, maybe shaving your legs if that's your thing, or doing the laundry that's been sitting on the couch for the past 5 days, if that's all that you were able to bring to the table for yourself that day, it's still a win because you still did something to give back into yourself. And for a long time, when you were in these relationships, you barely had the energy to take care of yourself, the emotional capacity to take care of yourself, or you were having to do all these other things to avoid an argument, and there was no peace in it, there was no joy in it. So just be consistent and show up every day to take care of yourself, even if it's just the bare minimum, and be okay with the bare minimum. The second one, this was something that was actually said to me that was really, really profound. And you know, when you're a content creator, you can get really wrapped up in like algorithms and how the platforms work and like all this. And yes, some of that stuff is important. But every time that I got more focused on the algorithm and like how the platform worked and how to get more views and all of that, anytime that my focus shifted to that, the joy of what I did was robbed from me, because I was losing sight of what the main thing is. And the main thing that I do this for is to be a resource for people, whether it's 5 people that day or 5,000. It doesn't matter. I just want to be a resource so that way people don't feel isolated and don't feel so lost in this journey. And that way they know that they're not alone. So someone said this Don't chase after the algorithm. Let the algorithm chase you. And the way that you make an algorithm chase you is just being yourself and just doing what you do. So how is this related to narcissistic abuse? I see a lot of questions asked about how long did it take you to get to this point? How long did it take you to feel normal again? And all of this kind of stuff. And we kind of try to compare our healing journey to other people's journey. And that can be really detrimental because the reality of the situation is you suffered very different trauma than I did. I suffered different trauma than my friends did. We all suffered different levels of trauma. We have also all suffered different levels of trauma throughout our life. And depending on the resources that we've had, maybe some of us are a little bit better at processing trauma because we've had the opportunity to build that resilience through maybe therapy and just other services. But the other thing is maybe this is the first time that you've had some major trauma in your life. I don't know. The point that I'm making here is no two healing journeys are the exact same. So don't compare your healing journey and don't compare your timeline to anybody else's. Focus on your healing and your own truth. The third thing this job has taught me is to just ignore the haters and ignore the naysayers. Look, I'm putting myself in a position to get negative feedback and to have hate comments and all that kind of stuff. That's part of the job of being a social media influencer. But what I've just learned is that I don't even waste my energy with it. I very rarely respond to them. I think I've probably responded to maybe 4 in my entire time of being a content creator. Most of the time I just block and just move on because it doesn't hold any value. It doesn't hold any truth to what I'm doing. And there are always going to be people that come across my content and they don't get it or they don't agree with it, or maybe I'm calling them out subconsciously and so they attack me for it. It's just part of the game and I just don't entertain it. And we deal with something in narcissistic abuse called demonizing and the smear campaign, and you need to have that exact same attitude towards that whole fiasco that happens because it's unavoidable. And yes, there are going to be people that believe the smear campaign, and there are going to be people that believe the demonizing that's happening, and that's painful and it's hurtful because it's never fun for someone to be out there telling a story that directly contradicts who you are as a person and then having people buy into that story. But here's the deal. There's always going to be people that buy into a story that does not reflect who you are. And that just shows that they don't know you. They never took the time to get to know you, and they were probably never really for you to begin with. And yes, again, there's pain that's associated to that. Acknowledge that pain, process it, and move on. But don't be caught up in it, and definitely don't make decisions based on trying to avoid people talking bad about you. Own your truth. Own what you're doing, own your story, and the more that you own your story, the less that the stories of other people matter. The last thing that this job has taught me is just how powerful community really is. You know, I have made some incredible friends doing this job. I've been exposed to some incredible people that I would have never otherwise been exposed to, and I've had the opportunity to meet them in person. And I'll tell you what, when I met some of these other survivors, you know, we had that meet and greet in Austin not long ago, and I got to meet some of these other creators for the first time ever. And it was the first time that I've ever really truly met people in person for the first time, and I instantly felt like I was with family. And that is so incredibly important in your healing journey. Even if your community is virtual, there are so many virtual support groups that are out there. There's Facebook groups, there's group coachings, there's support groups. It doesn't yes, we all prefer the face-to-face, but it doesn't always have to be that way. The connection that you can make to people can surpass physical boundaries. Because like I said, it's like I had known these people for forever when I met them. And you get to this point where you can feel so isolated, and you get to the point where you feel like nobody truly understands. Even with the support that I had during my healing journey, I still didn't necessarily feel like people understood what I was going through. I knew they were trying, but it just still felt so lonely because I could tell some people were getting frustrated that I wasn't over it yet, and some people thought I should have been further along, and all this and all that. But when you are with people in a community that really understand what you're going through, it makes all the difference in the world, and it makes you feel less alone. So I just really encourage you to do what you can do to find a community that can support you on this healing journey so that way you don't feel like you're doing this alone, because you're not. And there are so many people out here that are going through the exact same thing that you're going through or have gone through exactly what you're going through. And I don't think that we really understand how deeply that can touch our soul. So I hope you guys were able to get something out of this. I'm just very grateful for the opportunity that I get to do what I get to do. And I'm forever grateful that I get to be a part of your healing journey, even if it's just a small video. You have a blessed day.